entertaining as possible so that we can go out for lunch. My name is Mario Sanchez. I come from Mexico City, from very far away. It's been quite a long flight, and I'm here to talk to you about a tool that has existed for a decade, but for many people it's still unknown. I'm referring to the blue window that few people refer to as PowerShell. I hold a degree in computer science, and I have experience in incident response, penetration testing, and I currently work in debugging. And this is a disclaimer. Here you have some slides. I've brought 10 slides with some demos, and this presentation has been prepared solely for informative and educational purposes. What is PowerShell? PowerShell, and here we have Microsoft's definition. I'm not going to do this. It's an environment for scripting language development, and the main advantage of PowerShell is that we use objects instead of text, which is what CMD or Bash does with Linux. Why PowerShell? Here we have some references. Pablo González, author of these two books that you can see that are wonderful. There are very few references in Spanish. Juan Garrido has done amazing research in this field, and Carlos Perez, who works in Metasploit and has contributed to PowerShell, pusher mode, and PowerShell mediated MSH implementation. He has done something amazing. He has contributed very significantly to this world. To talk about PowerShell, let me give you the context. We have a set of components. We have the shell command prompt, which is the blue window that most of you have seen. Then we have the commanders. Then we have the providers that are command lists that are specific to work with specific data with which we wouldn't be able to work with the command line. An example is the Windows registry. Then we have the help from the system or from the command list. And I'll show you soon a small demo of how powerful this is. And then we have the modules to broaden and extend some PowerShell functionalities. There are many modules developed by the community. Active Directory that is owned by Microsoft. The one developed by Carlos Perez, as I was saying, etc. First of all, I'd like to link PowerShell with penetration testing. We have some tools, and I'm going to show them to you. Some projects that are specific for penetration testing. We have PowerCut, which is a netcut implemented with PowerShell. We also have some other projects like Function Mod, one I mentioned earlier, developed by Carlos Perez. It's wonderful. We have Power Exploit as well, and Boyer. This tool was developed by Juan Garrido to conduct Active Directory audit. It's wonderful. You just need to execute it, and it issues an automated report of N things. It's wonderful, and I'm going to give you some examples so that you understand the application of these tools. I'll run over this quite fast. Here are the tools I mentioned. PowerCut is the first one I'm going to show you. I forgot to say that this is common prompt, which is often known as the blue window, and we also have the development environment provided by Microsoft. It's a script development environment with many features. We have the editor, we have the console, and the description of all the commandlets available, divided into categories. And I'll do a demo for you. We're using PowerCut. As you can see, it's developed here. And of course, I don't have time to explain code to you, so I don't have much time. You just run it, you execute it, and this is similar to Netcut. To check that it's open, verify that it's open, we're going to do something very fast, and we can verify that we can have all ports open with this tool. And for example, this port is open, we can select the port we wish. This is just a demo so that you understand how these tools work, so that you can use them for pen testing or penetration testing purposes, for forensic computing purposes as well. And when we talk about PowerShell in a more advanced manner, there are other tools worth mentioning. PowerShell allows you to include or handle the .NET framework without having to open Visual Studio. We can create window forms, we can stick or paste APIs, voice APIs, or we can work directly with objects. We can create from PowerShell a Microsoft Word or Excel spreadsheet, personalized, customized parts. Let me show you an example so that you understand how we can create this without having to open Visual Studio. This is a very simple example. For example, how to create a calendar. Very, very simple. Let me assist with these lines of code. We can also create, well, here I have some examples. I'd just like to show you some examples of what we can do with PowerShell. You don't have to set up Visual Studio that consumes many resources. No, you can create small projects that can do amazing stuff. Okay, an example with a voice API that is included with Windows. You're creating a feature, a functionality. We are creating an object using the API of the voice operating system. We just run it, we just execute it. I don't have audio, I believe, in this laptop. Unfortunately, I can't activate the audio, but we can play around with lots of elements. We can send a text file, thousands of things, and the program software automatically reads by voice what we are sending or transferring. Another example. I'm gonna rush here. Let me choose this other example. We conduct audits on systems. We're interested in being able to use different techniques like Google hacking to be able to identify subdomains. There are N techniques to look for subdomains. This is an example I prepared, and the only thing we do is send Google a request using Google hacking and Ring hacking as well. Let's check something from here, from Spain, from the bank. I'm not doing anything at this stage. And what I'm going to do is conduct a search in Google regarding everything related to this, and there are some filters in place. I haven't fine-tuned it 100%. These are the subdomains we have, and that can be useful in order to be able to penetrate these subdomains from our customer. There are some implementations that are also quite interesting. There's this software that was presented in Black Hat Fest some years ago by Jacobo Tebaquera called NSearch. He developed it in Python. I tried to transfer it to PowerShell. Some things were lost. I was able to hone some other things. NSearch, for those of you unaware with this, is a tool that allows us to work with Nmap. And in a very simple manner, it allows us to search scripts to examine the documentation pertaining to each script. We've often wanted to look for scripts that we own, and we have to access the folder, then the script folder to be more exact, and try to see whether it's there. Here what we do is conduct a search, and we conduct a search by STP, for example. So in a very simple way, we can see all the scripts we have. We can search for, well, based on name or by category. You don't need to know categories. You just select them among the list. You can look for all the exploits in Mac. And we currently have one in this specific case. And we can also do an author-based search. And this is one of the main contributors, Paulino Calderano, also Mexican, like myself.
He has many different developments. One of the most important ones was to detect the eternal blue vulnerability. And here we have all the scripts he has developed. Here we have MS17010 vulnerability. We can also get the documentation just using doc, the name of the script, and here we have all the scripts available. We can just self-complete, and here we have the script documentation in a very simple way. The idea is, I believe Jacobo Tebaquera, he's from Colombia, from Dragon Hug community. This is his tool. The idea of PowerShell is not to install anything in order to make any sort of operation. to use insert, you need Python and some others, but here you just need to execute the script. And as simple as this, you get the documentation. It's something very simple, but on many occasions we look for something like this in internet, and many of us do not know that this information is inside the scripts, is always updated, and we have a command to update it to the latest releases. And we can also do administration rules. It updates the databases, downloading the scripts up until the last date. We have the documentation and updated information that we can execute. This is a clear example of everything that can be carried out with PowerShell. The idea is not to install anything in the OS in order to do our test. We have Nmap, and as you know, you don't need to install it. You can just download it and execute it. And from here, this is all you can do. We just have to exit, and we continue where we were. I would also like to introduce you the work with Microsoft Office. This is a small script to check the hardening on OS, generating a text file that generates a report, or that automatically generates a Word file with the help of .com objects. What we do is just execute it. We're gonna do it in the local server. We can do it in remote. PowerShell gives us the possibility to execute commands remotely using WinRM technologies, but now we're going to do it with a local server. We're going to execute it, and here is when we see what we have of our OS. As I said, this is not only possible locally but also remotely. And as you can see, this Microsoft Word file is not built by me, but automatically, and is carrying out the hardening of the equipment OS. It will take some time, and I've also shown you a tool by a Spaniard, Boyur, working in a similar way than the last script, but is integrated in this case to Active Directory. It gets the level of hardening with a report, one in Excel and the other one in Word, and this can save so much time in the daily security operations. Just to mention some of the functionalities, but we have some more. There are some tools developed by different partners that help us in the incident response part. One of the best known is PS Recon, that help us through PowerShell to activate the script. Takes some time to execute it. We can also do it remotely. Due to time reasons, I execute it in my device so that you can see it now. It builds an HTML file providing information about that system. This is very useful in incident response cases. As you know, we have to do things as fast as possible, and we have a great deal of information here in a nice looking report, all of this using PowerShell. We have firewall settings and many things. As you can see, there are many different possibilities. In an HTML file, as you can see, the word that I left on a few seconds ago, it validates different contents in different folders, and we see all the information that comes from the CIS that this script checks inside a device, creating a word. Here everything is simple. As you can see, to be able to provide a report is not only once. You can launch a number of times and make all the process automatic. Of course, taking into account the resources available. I've tested it with a large number of devices, and it gets or needs so many resources. Those are a few examples I can give you, and now we're going to see some other. We have in the incident response modules or in tools available, there is one named Kansa. It was developed by a Hindu, I don't remember his name, and this is the same as PS Recon, but with this we can get functionalities isolated, for example memory or certain things that are already present in PS Recon, and here we can import it to an Excel file using some PowerShell commandlets. We also have Nishang for penetration testing, for everything related to penetration testing, from getting information, exploitation, analysis. We have many different scripts that allow us to do many things. For example, to check whether it's a virtual machine, we can use Mimicat. We have a small killover. It doesn't work too well. We have a get information that brings all the information from the OS and many other things. Another great tool is WasherMod. It can be imported as a module with all its functionalities, or we can use part of the tools. I'm going to show you a small demonstration of one of the functionalities. Do we have power memory? Yes, we have power memory. This is an implementation from Mimikatz. As you know, anti-malware, antivirus, they have the signature. When we're doing a penetration testing process in Mimikatz, we have to verify whether there is any sort of antivirus or anti-malware. The majority, we can check it with VirusTotal. But those implementation in PowerShell by Mimikatz using the same procedure, it interrupts the process, the LSS, and gets the credentials. Here we're going to do a small demo of how it works. As I said, at present, in my experience, I haven't seen anything that can detect it, even though there are different anti-malware that detect this type of scripts. We have many anti-malware that they claim that they can do it, but they don't. At least they don't do it yet. I'm gonna show you an example. We have the same problems to execute Mimikatz. We should have administration rights. We cannot execute them without a permit.
Aquí tenemos el archivo .ps1 que vamos a ejecutar.
We have the PS1 file, we're going to execute it, and the only thing is to execute it, and here we have different possibilities. Let us do it in a really fast way. So we're gonna do it in a local server. We have the possibility to do it remotely with an LSS available and different possibilities, as you can see. Let us do it locally, and this is if we want to do a filtering. We're going to say no on this occasion. And here, something that is really interesting of this tool is allow us to eliminate the trace of our execution. We're going to press OK to eliminate any type of traces. We start the analysis, and maybe due to demo purposes, I executed it before presenting it to you. And this is the text file. By Mimikatz migrated to PowerShell. This is a small tool, but it's very useful if it happens that Mimikatz is really useful. Not to be concerned for any anti-malware or antivirus. As I said, although many state that they can detect this type of scripts, in fact, nobody detects them yet. Here, this is another tool. PowerSploit is well known. It has many different functionalities. One of the most used is port scan. Literally, it scans ports using PowerShell. If we don't have Nmap or we cannot install any other program, this small script weighs many kilobytes, 3 megabytes, and we can use all those functionalities having an Nmap. We execute it, and here we have the function named invoke post scan. The host we select is X. We can exclude host if we're going to use n number of IPs, and we can do it by quarters. It has a limited number of ports, X number of ports, but I don't remember the figure now, and we can scan, for example, port 80. It's not going to do it now, but it's a small example of how to use this tool. And we have something similar to Nmap, and as you can see, this is the information, the host, whether the port is open, closed, filtered, and the time without Nmap or installing anything, just the blue console that nobody can block either by GPOs or anything. We can do many different things. I've already show bonjour. I don't really have anything for this. If you want to have a look, it's very interesting. It's a very interesting tool to check on an active directory of a dominion. It checks on the trees and everything active directory, and it provides a full report of what we have in an active directory. Those are just a few of the tools I wanted to show you and some examples of what we can do with PowerShell. As I said, we can use it for penetration testing, power exploit, CAMSA, for incident response. The most famous in a way is PS Beacon. There are n number of scripts for incident response to check what user and what application was executed on the last instance, and those are all the projects. The most important one uses all of them, or the name is Empire. There is a framework where we can use all tools available. We can call Mimikat from PowerShell, port scanning, bypass from the UAC. There will be two very interesting talks about it later on today and tomorrow. And many things. Empire is the largest PowerShell project that implements many different tools. You can install it in a Linux. It's very easy to install, and in addition to being able to carry out forensics, penetration testing, and incidents response, is not been in the market for 10 years as PowerShell. We have PowerShell desired state configuration. The name is usually PowerShell DSS, but it allows us to have our infrastructure as code. I don't know if you know anti-wall Puppet. It allows us to provision infrastructure and applications in a declarative way for many projects that we might have in mind. One of the examples, this is an example in Microsoft documents in a very descriptive way. We can set or provision a web server just by executing this in our OS, whether locally or remotely, on a number of hosts, and make different settings to the applications, SQL Server, Exchange, SharePoint, in a very simple and automatized way. This in DevOps is incredibly powerful, and we can compare it with other existing solutions. If it rings a bell, have a look. It has implementations with Azure, and it will be stupid not to mention it. We can self-provision many different things as code. We can have different releases. I know it's lunchtime, and this is just some information of everything I wanted to present you, but please, I urge you to use the tool, use the small blue windows. We have a development environment. There are many things we can do. It's very easy to start working with it, and I forgot to show you something. We have help desk for everything. We have a command, and if you do not know the tool, there's a get help, a command that brings help about everything we might need from any command let or module. Something as write, for example, just to show you an example. If you don't know this tool, if you don't know PowerShell, please use it. This command is the main one. It will be your best friend, so you can start using it. It will save much time. When you start working with PowerShell, you can make everything automatic in relation to OS, and for those that are interested, it's also implemented in all Linux releases. Since 2016 it became open source, so there are releases for Linux, so we can automatize and no longer depend on Bash. Bash is very powerful, but it treats everything as text, and here as objects. We can treat everything as a method or propriety or settings, and it will save you much time from administration, whether you are admins or carry on penetration testing. In case you cannot install anything, it's going to be very useful. Also in incident response, I'm sure that 80% if you of those that will use it, it will be on Microsoft. There are very powerful tools that you can develop really quickly, the forensics, and as I said, we even have DevOps implementations for DevOps. We can implement it in your servers in Azure with DSS. And this is the end of my presentation. I don't want to take more time. Thank you so much for your attention.